She told you she needed space. She stopped texting, started replying with one-word answers. Your mind spiraled, you triple texted, you stalked her stories, and the more you reached, the more she pulled away. You ever wonder why the men who care the least seem to get everything, and the ones who care the most get ghosted, friend-zoned, blocked? Let's talk about why calm men make women obsessed, and how you can become one. If this already hits home, drop "I choose stillness" in the comments and support the channel so more men can learn what they were never taught. Number 1. He never explains himself. You're not here to justify your existence. The moment you feel that itch to explain why you didn't text her back, why you couldn't make it to dinner, why you didn't respond with a heart emoji, you're giving her the upper hand. You're shrinking, and she feels it. Every time you explain yourself to a woman who didn't earn your vulnerability, you expose a weakness she didn't respect in the first place. You become easy to read, predictable, and most importantly, controllable. Calm men don't need to explain because they know they're not doing anything wrong by having their own life, their own rhythm, their own priorities. You feel that tug inside you to defend your silence because you've been trained to believe that being good means being agreeable, available, accommodating. But what it actually means in her eyes is this: you're soft, you're trying too hard, and you need her validation to feel like a man. Imagine you're building your future, working on your craft, grinding in the gym, focused in silence, and she texts you, and you drop everything to explain yourself. That's not attraction, that's submission. You want her to respect you? Let her feel the absence without guilt. You've got things to do. You don't belong to her. And when she questions your distance, you don't panic, you don't justify, you stay firm, you hold your ground, and you give her the gift of silence again. Because what she really wants to know isn't your schedule. She wants to know if she still has power over you. When you remove explanations from your language, you remove her ability to control you emotionally. That's when she starts wondering. She replays your last words. She reads into your tone. She overanalyzes your pauses. And in that silence, she builds you up in her mind. You become mystery. And mystery creates obsession. Every man listening to this has made this mistake, apologizing for living, for choosing his own peace over her demands. And every man who changes his pattern reclaims his power. You want a woman to lean in? Say less. Not with coldness, with purpose. Your time is your time. Your choices are your choices. You don't owe her an emotional audit every time you breathe. In fact, the more she knows you're unshakable and unavailable for explanations, the more she craves your presence. And here's how you apply it today. Stop sending paragraphs. Stop reacting to her tone. Start filtering your words through one question. Does this empower me or disempower me? If it makes you smaller, don't say it. If it's meant to reassure her ego, stay silent. You're not here to convince anyone to stay. You're not on trial. You're not her emotional pet. You are the man. And the man explains nothing. He lives. He leads. He lets his actions speak. And when she's earned his trust, she may receive his truth, but never as a defense, only as a gift. Every time you hold your tongue when you're tempted to over-explain, you reclaim the part of you that was trained to please. And that is the beginning of freedom. And if this truth stirs something inside you, if you feel that weight of always over-explaining, always bending yourself to be understood, then it's time you had a framework that grounds you for life. That's exactly why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, linked in the comments. Because every principle I'm giving you here is expanded, sharpened, and laid out, so you never lose yourself again. This is a blueprint you'll carry forever, a guide you can return to any time you feel that old urge to explain, to chase, to break your own standards. And imagine what it feels like to know You'll always have access to this knowledge, that no matter how chaotic life or relationships get, you'll have the calm clarity of timeless wisdom in your hands, yours to keep, yours to live by, yours to transform your future. Number 2, he's immune to her tests. She doesn't even know she's doing it half the time. It's instinct, it's emotional Darwinism. She's wired to test you because she's wired to survive. And in her subconscious, the man who passes the test is the one who can lead, protect, and endure. But what she's really testing is whether your emotions control you or you control your emotions. And most men fail this instantly. You see it in the smallest things. She says she's going out with her guy friend and watches your face for panic. She takes hours to reply and checks if you double text. She starts arguments over nothing just to see if you beg for peace. These are tests, and they are everywhere. The weak man doesn't see them. He reacts. He tries to explain. He gets jealous. He overcompensates. He turns into a boy fighting for approval. But the calm man, he sees the test, and he doesn't move. She says something to provoke him, and he just looks at her, slow and unshaken. Not cold, calm. Not cruel, controlled. He knows that these moments are not about logic, not about fairness. They are about energy. She is pushing to see if she can destabilize you. Because if she can shake you emotionally, she knows you can't lead her when life gets hard. This isn't about her being toxic. This is nature playing chess. You pass these tests not by becoming robotic, but by becoming deeply rooted in your self-respect. Have you ever had a woman try to make you jealous by talking about another guy? Most men will laugh nervously, make jokes, or retaliate with stories of other women. The calm man just pauses and lets the silence speak. She sees in his eyes that he doesn't care, not because he's indifferent, but because he knows his value isn't determined by her little emotional games. He's not in a competition. He's the prize. And when she realizes she can't knock him off balance, something clicks inside her. She feels safe, not in the soft way, in the primal way. Like this man cannot be moved by drama, pressure, or tests, and that safety makes her surrender. You want to pass every test? Live like you have nothing to prove. Respond like a man who's seen it all and still keeps his peace. When she pulls away, you give her space like it was your idea. When she acts cold, you stay warm, but distant, not to punish, to show her that she cannot change your temperature with her mood. You remain steady, unbothered, and eventually, she will break her own silence, admit her own games, and come back softer. That's when you lead, not with anger, but with quiet strength. This level of control is not built in a day. You train it. You catch yourself before you send the emotional text. You pause before defending yourself. You choose to observe rather than react. Every time you pass one of these small tests, you rewire your identity from a man who seeks approval to a man who commands respect. You'll see it in her eyes. The shift, the softness, the hunger. Not because you became mean, but because you became untouchable. And the untouchable man is the man who owns himself completely. That is the man she follows. That is the man she fears losing. That is the man who wins. Number 3, he leads without needing control. Leadership isn't about barking orders or demanding submission. It's about being the kind of man whose energy naturally pulls others into alignment without effort, force, or manipulation. And too many men today confuse aggression with leadership, control with strength, volume with direction. They think if they raise their voice, she'll listen. If they micromanage her movements, she'll submit. But that only breeds resistance because no woman respects a man who has to dominate her to feel strong. What she respects is the man who walks his path so unwaveringly, so unapologetically, so decisively, that she follows not because she's forced, but because she trusts where he's going. And the truth is, most men today don't know where they're going. They make their woman their compass. Then wonder why she loses attraction. Because a woman can't follow a man who follows her, and she can't surrender to a man who needs her direction, and so she tests him, pushes back, loses respect, cheats, leaves. Not because she's evil, but because he never claimed the wheel in the first place. Real leadership begins with clarity, with a man deciding what kind of life he's building, how he moves, what he tolerates, what he rejects, what principles guide him. And when you've defined that, you don't have to demand her compliance. You simply live by those standards so boldly that anyone who's not aligned falls away naturally. And the women who can't match your rhythm will disqualify themselves without you ever raising your voice. And those who stay will admire the calm steadiness in you that says, I don't need to control you, because I already control myself. And the reason she falls for that man, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't force, doesn't beg, is because that man offers her something she doesn't even understand she craves: direction without drama, safety without neediness, dominance without demand. You ever seen a man walk into a room and everyone, men and women, just orients around him? That's leadership, not because he owns them, but because he owns himself so deeply they trust him instantly. You want to be that man? Start here. Wake up earlier than her. Set your goals before the day begins. Have a vision you're obsessed with, not her. And stop explaining your decisions. Stop apologizing for being decisive. Stop asking her to approve your plan. Because the more you look to her for reassurance, the more she doubts you. And the more she doubts you, the more chaotic she becomes. And the more you try to control that chaos, the less she respects you. But when you stand grounded, when you don't get pulled into her emotional waves, when you let her spin and remain unmoved, she finally feels safe, not because you stopped her storm, but because you didn't get swept up in it. And you don't do this by force. You do it by anchoring yourself in your mission so deeply, by creating a code of conduct for your life so clearly that you become the lighthouse, not the boat, the guidepost, not the follower. And every man listening who's been chasing a woman's emotions, trying to fix her moods, trying to earn her softness. The truth is, you've already lost her the moment you made her your center. And the path back isn't punishment or control. It's purpose. It's walking forward, whether she's by your side or not. It's knowing that her alignment isn't your responsibility, only your standards are. And when you live that way, when your boundaries aren't loud but immovable, she doesn't just follow. She respects you in a way no woman ever respected the man who begged for her attention. And if you want to become that kind of leader today, take out a piece of paper and write down the 5 values you will no longer bend for anyone. Then schedule your life around those values. Speak only from those values. Date only women who reflect those values. And when you do, you'll never need to control again. You'll just lead, effortlessly, silently, completely. Number 4, he doesn't chase. The reason you're drained, confused, emotionally wrecked, and constantly questioning your worth isn't because you're unlovable or not enough. It's because you've been taught to chase love like it's a prize you need to win. And every time you put her on that pedestal, you kill the part of you that she could have fallen for, because women don't fall for men who chase. They fall for the ones who make them question where they stand, who make them feel uncertain in a way that ignites their curiosity and awakens their emotional hunger. And chasing, in any form, kills that instantly. But most men don't even realize they're chasing. It starts subtle: a quick reply, a double text, checking her story, commenting to stay visible, rearranging your schedule to see her, suppressing your opinion to avoid conflict. Every one of those is a chase, and every time you do it, she senses it. And the worst part is, the more available you make yourself, the more unattractive you become, because she doesn't want to feel like she's the only thing you're focused on. She wants to feel like she's earned a place in a world that already runs without her. And the man who creates that feeling becomes addictive, because when she's not sure she has you, she works harder to earn you. And the tragedy is, most men do the exact opposite. The more a woman pulls away, the harder they chase, the more effort they give, thinking they're being loving, romantic, strong, when in reality they're becoming invisible, because desperation repels desire, and presence without neediness is the only thing that creates gravity. So if you're tired of being ghosted, left on read, confused why she lost interest after showing you affection, it's not because you're broken, it's because you chased. And here's how you change that today. Fill your life so deeply that you no longer have room to obsess over anyone. And I mean that literally. Build a daily schedule that excites you so much that you forget to reply instantly. Get in the gym to the point where you respect your time more than her attention. Read daily until your perspective becomes so strong that no rejection phases you. And most of all, stop proving your worth to anyone who hasn't earned your consistency. When she texts, don't jump. Take your time. When she pulls back, don't pursue. Lean back even further. When she plays games, don't decode. Let her feel the loss of access. And if she disappears, don't question why. Just walk away permanently, because the man who doesn't chase becomes the man she can't stop thinking about. Not because he's toxic, but because he's rare. And every man can become that man the moment he realizes that his energy is sacred, that his pursuit should be reserved only for those who bring peace, not confusion. And once you internalize that, you'll see a shift in every interaction. Women will start chasing you, trying to understand you, investing more to earn your validation, not because you manipulated them, but because you finally stopped chasing the external and started embodying internal worth. And when you do, the chase ends forever, because now you are the reward. Number 5, he embraces silence. The most magnetic man in the room is the one who says the least, not because he's shy, not because he's afraid to speak, but because he understands that silence is not empty. It's full of meaning. And the reason most men fail in relationships, in business, in life, is because they're addicted to noise, addicted to reacting, addicted to filling every gap with words, texts, justifications, jokes, all because they're uncomfortable with being misunderstood. But when a man embraces silence, not as avoidance but as presence, he stops chasing clarity from people who aren't even worth the energy. And in that stillness, in that deliberate pause, he begins to attract more respect, more curiosity, and more power than 1,000 empty affirmations could ever earn. Because silence communicates strength, patience, confidence, and most of all, it forces the world to listen harder, especially her. And if you're that man who's been chasing conversations, trying to fix every awkward pause, trying to text her good morning so she doesn't forget you exist, overthinking why she hasn't responded in 4 hours, then you're draining your masculine core by giving away your attention, and the moment you stop and let the silence breathe, everything changes. Because the moment you stop trying to keep her attention is the moment she starts working to keep yours. It's the mystery of silence that makes a man unforgettable. The fact that she can't read your mind, can't predict your next move, and that unknown creates emotional gravity. And yes, she'll test it. She'll go silent just to see if you break. She'll send short answers just to measure your reaction. She'll disappear for hours and wait for you to fold. But the calm man doesn't fold. He leans into the silence like it's a language only he understands, because he knows the power of absence. He knows that her distance is not an emergency, it's a mirror, and instead of panicking, he uses that mirror to check his own frame, to make sure he's not depending on her attention for his self-worth. Because here's the hard truth. If her silence breaks you, you were never in control to begin with. So you want to reclaim that control? Start today. Go an entire day without initiating. Stop double texting. When a conversation dies, let it die. When she sends you lol or K, don't respond, don't chase clarity. Let the silence hold. Let the weight of your discipline echo louder than any message you could have sent, and you'll start to see a shift. She'll reach out more, ask more questions, check in more, not because you played a game, but because you proved that you're not afraid of the void. And most men don't get this. They think silence is rejection when it's actually your strongest negotiation tool. And once you understand this, you stop fearing her mood swings. You stop trying to explain yourself after every disagreement. You stop filling every conversation with unnecessary noise just to keep the vibe alive, because now you know that when you embrace silence, you take control, not over her, but over the emotional tone of the relationship. And that's where your power is, in deciding that your energy is not for sale, that your presence is a privilege. And the man who lives by that principle never begs for attention, never gets ghosted without consequence, never loses himself in a conversation, because he knows the louder he speaks with his silence, the harder she listens. Number 6, he's unpredictable. You want to know why women obsess over the man they can't figure out, why she keeps checking his profile, replaying his last message, overthinking every small interaction. It's not because he's perfect or rich or even better looking. It's because she doesn't know what's coming next. And in a world where most men are on autopilot, predictable, desperate, and painfully easy to read, the man who breaks her pattern without explanation becomes unforgettable. And yet most men ruin this without realizing it, because the second she shows interest, they become a robot. They text good morning daily, they reply instantly, they update her on their day like it's a job interview, and before long, she knows his next move better than he does. And the second that happens, the attraction dies, not because she's playing games, but because predictability kills polarity. And when you become easy to predict, you become easy to replace. But the man who keeps her guessing, not by manipulation, but by being fully engaged in his own life, in his own mission, in his own emotional rhythm, that man becomes impossible to forget. And here's what unpredictability really looks like. Sometimes you take her out, and the night feels like a movie. Other times you're unavailable for days without apology. Sometimes you're attentive and curious. Other times you're quiet and unreadable, not because you're playing hot and cold, but because you're not performing, you're living. And the truth is, a woman will only chase the man she can't fully possess, and you remain unpossessed by staying unpredictable, by not being emotionally available on demand, by not treating her interest as an automatic reward. And if you want to build this into your life today, stop sharing every detail of your plans. Stop being available every time she calls. Don't always respond the same way. Sometimes say no, sometimes say nothing. Sometimes disappear into your goals and let her miss you. And what that creates is tension. The kind of tension that keeps her invested, wondering, leaning in, because now she can't quite categorize you. And without a label, she keeps chasing clarity. And this is what most men don't understand. Women don't fall in love through logic. They fall in love through uncertainty, through emotional puzzles they can't solve. And you provide that not by being rude, not by being aloof, but by refusing to be her emotional puppet. And if you think this is toxic, think again, because real unpredictability isn't chaos, it's boundary. It's having a full life where she fits in, not a life that orbits around her. It's sending a voice note at midnight one day and then being unreachable the next because you're deep in a project. It's canceling a date because your schedule matters more than her disappointment. It's laughing when she tries to guilt trip you into explaining your distance and saying, "I've been busy," without flinching. Because when she sees you don't need to prove or explain or perform, that's when she starts wondering if you're slipping through her fingers. And that fear of loss creates a pull no compliment or bouquet of flowers ever could. So if you want to build that into your life, start by making unpredictability your standard. not through strategy, but through presence. By actually having a life that excites you more than her mood swings, by building routines that serve you first, by never letting a woman know she's won you too soon, and above all, by remaining emotionally free, because the man who is unreadable becomes unforgettable. And the moment you stop being easy to figure out is the moment she starts figuring out how to keep you. Number 7. His presence dominates the room. You know who owns the room? It's never the man trying the hardest to be seen, the one cracking loud jokes, puffing his chest, scanning the room for validation. No, it's always the one who walks in and instantly shifts the energy without saying a word. The man who doesn't need to make an entrance because his presence does it for him. And the reason most men never experience this is because they've spent their entire lives trying to be liked instead of being respected, trying to entertain instead of command. And in that pursuit, they become invisible because respect doesn't come from performance. It comes from presence, and presence is built in silence, in solitude, in the grind, in the decisions you make when no one is watching, and when you enter a room with that kind of weight behind your name, not from clout, but from character. Everyone notices without understanding why, and this is why women are drawn to these men without logic, because presence is primal. It triggers something deep in her that words never could, and presence is built long before you meet her. It's built in the gym when you don't feel like lifting, in the business moves you make when no one believes in you yet, in the discipline to say no when yes is easier. And most men have no presence because they live reactionary lives, constantly adjusting to others' moods, tiptoeing around discomfort, speaking too fast, nodding too much, seeking approval in every sentence. But the man who dominates a room without noise does so because he's not there to be seen. He's there to evaluate, to choose, to decide whether or not the room is even worth his energy, and you can feel it in his posture. No slouching, no fidgeting, slow, deliberate movements, unbothered eye contact, not the stare of aggression, but the calm gaze of a man who knows his value, doesn't shift based on others' opinions. And this makes people lean in, makes them second-guess themselves around him, makes women overthink their tone, their texts, their behavior, not because he's intimidating on purpose, but because he's fully embodied, fully present. And here's how you cultivate this kind of presence starting today. Cut the filler words, slow your speech, lower your voice slightly, eliminate nervous laughter, take longer pauses before responding, and above all, move with intention. Because every twitch, every stutter, every anxious comment you make reveals where you're unsure of yourself. But when you speak only when necessary, when you're comfortable with silence, when you take up space unapologetically, not by being loud, but by being still, you shift the room every time. And this doesn't come from faking confidence. It comes from building a life so solid that you don't need anyone to notice you for you to feel real. So stop entering rooms trying to be liked and start entering them as if you're deciding who's worth your time. And that shift alone will turn every head without effort, because energy doesn't lie and presence isn't taught. It's earned. Number 8. He moves on without fear. Nothing reveals the strength of a man more than how easily he can walk away from anything or anyone that no longer serves him. And the hard truth most men avoid facing is that they stay in relationships long after the respect is gone. They tolerate disrespect disguised as independence, endure manipulation in the name of compromise, and they hold on, not because of love, but because they're terrified of being alone. And that fear is what keeps them stuck in cycles that drain their spirit, their drive, their dignity. Because when a man fears loss, he becomes blind to reality. He excuses betrayal, forgives dishonor, explains away clear signs of disinterest, and every time he stays after the line has been crossed, he weakens his core, and the woman senses it. She may not say it, but she feels that you're afraid to lose her. And the second she knows that, she owns you, and the dynamic flips, because you're no longer the man she admired. You're the man she can toy with, test, tease, disrespect without consequence. And you'll keep trying harder, keep giving more, trying to win back a version of her that no longer exists. But the calm man, the man who's done the inner work, doesn't beg, doesn't chase closure, doesn't demand explanations. He just leaves, and not in rage, but in peace, because he understands that walking away isn't weakness. It's the highest form of self-respect. And when a man can look a woman in the eye after she's disrespected him, after she's flirted in his face, after she's ghosted him, and still say nothing, still leave without drama, without threats, without emotion, he becomes the kind of man who haunts her long after he's gone, not because he was cruel, but because he chose himself without apology. And this isn't about being heartless. It's about being honest, because staying in places where you're not valued is the most self-destructive thing a man can do. And if you're that man listening to this, still stuck, still holding on to a woman who emasculates you, who belittles your ambitions, who uses your loyalty against you, understand this. You don't need more patience, you need more standards, and the way to build them is to start honoring yourself like you're irreplaceable, because the man who knows his worth doesn't stay where he's tolerated. He only stays where he's celebrated, and if that means walking away from the only love you've known, so be it, because the pain of temporary loss is nothing compared to the lifetime of quiet suffering you'll endure by staying with someone who doesn't see you. And the moment you choose to walk away without fear, without announcement, without need for recognition, that's the moment you reclaim your freedom. And ironically, it's often the moment she realizes what she lost, because no woman forgets the man who respected himself more than he loved her. And from this day forward, let that be your standard. Walk when it's time, detach when it's necessary, let go when it's deserved, and never again allow your fear of being alone to convince you to accept less than your worth. If you're tired of being the man who explains, chases, and loses himself just to keep someone who never respected him, it ends today, because the man who learns to stand firm, to choose silence over weakness, to walk away without fear, is the man who rewrites his entire life. And that's why I put everything into the Stoic relationship blueprint for men, the one guide that strips away lies and gives you the clarity, the strength, and the unshakable code you'll carry forever. It's linked in the comments right now, but it won't stay there forever. So if you're ready to stop bleeding for women who don't value you and start living as the man who commands respect everywhere he goes, drop "I choose myself" in the comments, like this video, subscribe so more men can find this truth and save themselves years of regret.